And he said, sometimes the stupid, crafty one amongst them, al-ghabir makkar, like he's stupid and yet he's clever at the same time. Al-khadda', he's a mountebank, fooling people. He will say, I'm just trying to protect the dignity of knowledge. And then he'll say, وَأَنَّ الْمُؤْمِنَ مَنْهِيٌ عَنْ إِذْلَالِ نَفْسِهِ فَيُعَبِّرُ عَنَ التَّوَاضُعِ الَّذِي أَثْنَى اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى عَلَيْهِ وَسَائِرُ أَنْبِيَائِهِ بِالذُّلْمِ. And he'll say that the mu'min is said not to abase himself. And so he'll call humility degradation, even though Allah commanded to humility. وَعَنَ التَّكَبُّرِ الْمَمْقُوتِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عِزَّ الدِّينِ. And he'll call arrogance dignity. تَحْرِيفًا الْإِسْمِ, distorting the name, وَإِضْلَالًا الْخَلْقِ بِهِ, and leading people astray. And this is what they've done, as we have mentioned earlier, in hikmah and knowledge and other names. Another one, the haqad, which is resentment. It breeds this resentment. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Al-mu'min laysa bihaqud." The believer is not. He doesn't resent. He doesn't have resentment towards people. And haqud is a hyperbolic. وَرَدَ فِي ذَنْبِ الْحَقْدِ مَا لَا يَخْفَى. And there are many things that we've been told about this. Another one is ghiba. وَقَدْ شَبَّهَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى بِأَكْلِ الْمَيْتَةِ. And Allah has likened it to eating dead flesh, carrion. لَا يَزَالُ الْمُنَاظِرُ مُثَابِرًا عَلَى أَكْلِ الْمَيْتَةِ. And you will see these debaters, these people that are arguing with others, they're always eating their flesh. فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَنْفَكُ عَنْ حِكَايَةِ كَلَامِ خَصْمِهِ وَمَذَمَّتِهِ. He'll just talk about his enemy and he'll blame him and he'll tell things. He'll even lie about things. And so this is all, it's either ghiba or buhtan. He'll either tell the truth. And Twitter, I mean, there's an example where people say things, the most egregious things about people, especially about the ulama. You should just shut up about the ulama. They have their hujjah with God. The best thing, if you don't agree with them, explain why you don't agree with them. But to call them names, I mean, that's. And I'm talking about specifically, we can talk about ulama generally, that we have a problem, undeniably. But to take somebody who has a position that's different from your position and to attack them and to say this, that, or the other about them, they made their ijtihad. That's with God. They made their ijtihad. I'll give you an example. Qadi Iyad, when Qadi Iyad was with the Murabit Sultan, and they heard Abdul Mu'min give a speech, he said, "Uqtulhu wa alayya damuhu." He told him, he said, kill him and his blood is on me. That's an alim who's told the ruler to kill that man, who gave a wow. He came and gave an exhortation. He said, kill him and his blood is on me. And he didn't do it. He ended up overthrowing the ruler and created a big fitna. The rest is history. But there's an example where the alim, he gives a fatwa and he's saying, this is my ijtihad, I'll take the responsibility for it. So you can disagree with them. I can say I don't agree with what he did, but to say he's a jahil, if he's a scholar, if he's a real scholar, to say he's jahil is wrong. And one of the things Shaykh Abdullah bin Bayya said, he said there's no such thing in our religion as ulama sultan. He said that لا تنابزوا بالألقاب. Don't call people names. There's alim, and he's either mukhti or musib. And he said you have to look at his fatwa, what he's saying. Is it based on reality or is it not? But to say that the alim is simply, no, he just sold his deen or something like that. Maybe he did. But you look at what he said. Look at the fatwa. Assess the fatwa. As a scholar, you're supposed to look at the fatwa. Is it based on reality or is it not? If it's not based on reality, then clarify that. But because the fatwa goes against what you like and you say alim sultan, maybe he made an ijtihad that you didn't grasp. And this is a big problem in the community. And we have now, there's just so much anarchy and just madness. And the ulama they're as confused as everybody else. That's a bad sign. The ulama, you ask the ulama, they're like, their heads are spinning too. Don't think your heads are the only ones spinning. Their heads are spinning. I sit with them. They're like, what do you think? I don't know. What do you think? What do you make of it? I don't know. Right? People ask me, like, what do you make of so-and-so? I don't know. I don't even know what I make of myself. Like, you're asking me about so-and-so? I'm trying to work myself out. Yeah. We have to have more compassion for people, human beings. You know, I mean, you have people got upset with, you know, like Imam Majid. You know Imam Majid in the United States? People got upset that he went to the White House, you know, at this time because of the Israeli thing. Yeah, it's bad. You know, I got invited to that thing. I didn't go, right? I already went once. It caused me enough problems. Yeah. But, you know, look, I know Imam Majid. I know him personally. And I'm honored to call him a friend. Imam Majid is a very sincere person as far as I can tell. I have no reason other than to assume that he's a sincere person. You know what Imam Majid does when he flies? This is true, you know. When he flies on a long journey, he does khatam of the Quran on the journey. Wallahi, he does that. He teaches, he's a humble man. He's one of the humble people. His father was a qadi. Shaykh Abdullah bin Bayy knows his father very well. He does things that are very difficult for me. Like, I wouldn't want to do them, but he does them. In the United States, you can say, why is he going to the White House? A'udhu billah. Hada shaitan. Tayyib. We're probably at least 6 million Muslims in the United States. We have to have some level of engagement. Somebody has to be to be talking to these people. I don't want to do it, but somebody has to do it, or else we're completely marginalized. We now, in the United States, for those of us living in the United States, the latest Pew poll, we went from 40% that have a favorable opinion of Muslims to 20% since the last poll. Things are looking bad in the United States, right? So people say that you know, he's not brave enough to speak up. Just going into the White House, you're putting a target on your back from the Islamophobes who wrote the next day that terrorists are in the White House. That's what they did. So they're calling him terrorists. Now you've got nutcases in the United States that say, oh, he's a terrorist, let's go get rid of him or something. Seriously, it's a reality. And then you've got Muslims attacking him. So for me, you know, I say we should honor people like that are trying to do their best, because I really believe he is. That's his ijtihad. Maybe he's wrong. It's possible. He could be wrong. But that's his ijtihad. He's a scholar of some merit, and that's his ijtihad. He's saying, I think in my situation, this is the best thing that I can do for the Muslim community. And I should trust his sincerity. I can say, you know what, I disagree with him. I think he should have boycotted it. But he made his ijtihad. The one who makes an ijtihad and he's wrong gets a reward. And the one who makes it and he's right gets 2 rewards. So he gets 1 reward, but if you attack him and criticize him, and his niyyah is good, then that's not a good thing. In 1953, in July of 1953, Dr. Saeed Ramadan went to the White House with an Ikhwan delegation, right? It was arranged by people in intelligence in the United States that thought it was important for the White House to engage the Ikhwan al-Muslimin. So he went there. That was his ijtihad. There's books. I read a book called The Devil's Game claiming that these people were agents of the CIA. I don't believe that, because I actually met the man. I met Dr. Ramadan, Saeed Ramadan. I actually read his PhD dissertation that he did at a European university. I don't think he was. I think he was making an ijtihad. He went into the Eisenhower White House at a time when Eisenhower was undermining the democratic government of Iran. He was undermining the democratic government of Iran. They overthrew Mossadegh. He was directly involved in ensuring Israel's success as a state. Eisenhower, Truman acknowledged it. It's the first thing. 11 minutes after Israel declared its independence, Eisenhower was the first. 11 minutes. They didn't even waste time. 11 minutes. That was a quick council. They acknowledged, and this is fresh, all these Muslims got thrown out, but he thought that it was probably good at that time to go into the White House because he had some strategic vision. Right? That was his ijtihad. Maybe he was wrong, but that was his ijtihad. The only one that's going to judge us is Allah. Thank God. Really, thank God. All these people on Twitter are not my judge. Right? Thank God. Right? The only one that's going to judge us is God. And ashaqaqta an qalbihi, did you open up his heart? Did you look inside his heart? Did you determine what was in his heart? What his niyyah was? Husn al-dhan. خصلتان ليس فوقهما وخصلتان ليس شيء فوقهما من الخيرات يحمد. حسن الظن بالله ثم بالعباد فكنهما وجنبنا للعناد. There's two qualities, there's no better qualities than these two qualities. Having a good opinion of Allah and having a good opinion of the servants of Allah. We're all trying. And we would hope that, Muslims we need to unite. At least be united in acknowledging that people come to different conclusions about situations. We're all trying. For me, I'm teaching this stuff because I think this is the most important things that Muslims need to be thinking about. Because I look at the Muslim world and I see people cutting people's heads off. And I see people rioting in the streets. And I see angry people. And I see people taking a 70-year-old ruler and sticking a knife up his backside, out of rage and anger. And I don't see the Prophet coming into Mecca. I don't see Salahuddin al-Ayyubi coming into Jerusalem. I don't see Amir Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, Amir Abdul Qadir al-Jazairi dealing with French prisoners with such dignity that they even went back to France and had to praise him. I don't see that because the tarbiyah that those men had was this tarbiyah. And this is what I want to see. I want to see when we do finally go into Jerusalem, that we don't slaughter people. Seriously, that's what I want to see. When we do finally go into Jerusalem, that we don't slaughter people. That we have the prophetic character. Now we have the power. This is the time to show rahmah when you're in power. That's the time to show rahmah. They didn't show it with us. They're not our teachers. Well, they do it to us. They're not our teachers. Our teacher is sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. That's our teacher. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. It's a mercy. The Prophet forgave people. Jamil used to put thorns on his path and the wind would blow it away. One day he came out, there were no thorns. He went to see if she was okay. She was sick that day. So he visited her. It was his aunt. SubhanAllah. Where is that? Where's that akhlaq? Where's the akhlaq when people spitting on him, throwing rocks at him, his feet are bleeding, and the angel comes and says, you want us to smash these two mountains, wipe them all out? No. I want to see their children pray. It's a different, it's just a different perspective. That doesn't come from hiqad and bughd and hasad. That's not where it comes from. It comes from something else. That you actually care about people, even the bad people, you wish for them good. The Prophet didn't wish for people destruction. He wanted their salvation. That's what he was concerned about. He didn't want to chop heads off. He wanted to enlighten heads. He wanted to restore them. That's who our Prophet ﷺ is. And I don't see him being represented anywhere in our ummah anymore. I don't see it. I wish I could. I wish I could say, look, this is Islam. Here it is. This is Islam. Where can we point to and tell these people in the West, these ignorant people, they're ignorant. They're really not, they don't know anything. Where can you point? You can point to the Taj Mahal, to the Topkapi, point to the Blue Mosque. Those are stones. Where are the hearts that built those stones? Where are those hearts that beauty came out of? Where are they? That's what he's talking about. But it's not easy. He was so fed up with himself that he had to go into retreat for 10 years. But that's why we're here teaching his book. All those people that attacked him, the people that burnt his books, we're not teaching their books. Al-Ghazali, the Mufti of Fez, the Imam of the Qarawiyyin, the esteemed scholar of his age, the one that gave the fatwa to persecute the Jews, he's not the one honored today. It's Ahmad Zarruq that said it's wrong. We need to protect the Jews. He's the one honored, not the one that said steal their goods, go into their houses. That's what they did as a pogrom in Fez. It's one of the great disgraces of Moroccan history. But Ahmad Zarruq said it's wrong. That's who we honor today. Everybody was against him when he was alive. And that's why only history's going to, Allah will judge us, but it's the people that come later that can sort out all this mess. It's not the people alive today, because everybody's got nafs. Everybody wants to be on top. Everybody wants their position. But we're all just doing ijtihad. That's all it is. We're all trying our best. And just acknowledge it in the other. It's not my ijtihad. I think you should be doing something else. But if that's what you think you're doing, it's your life. You have to live it. وَمِنْهَا تَزْكِيَةُ النَّفْسِ فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. And then also, you think you're better than other people. Allah says, لَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't say you're better than other people. لَا تَسْخَرْ مِنْ قَوْمٍ. Right? Don't make fun of a group. Right? لَا يَسْخَرْ قَوْمٌ مِنْ قَوْمٍ. Don't let one people make fun of another people. عَسَى يَكُونُوا خَيْرًا مِنْهُمْ. Maybe they're better than them. Allah knows, we don't know. كُلٌّ يَعْمِلُ عَلَى شَاكِرَتِهِ. Everybody works on what he thinks is the best thing to do. Did you know that that's the ayah that's written around the green dome? كُلٌّ يَعْمِلُ عَلَى شَاكِرَتِهِ. Everyone is working according to their own understanding. Sahaba went to war with each other. They had different ijtihad. People have differences. وَمِنْهَا التَّجَسُّسُ وَتَتَبُعُ عَوْرَاتِ النَّاسِ. And then you start spying on people, following their things. He says, even it gets to the point where they look at their inclinations, they see faults in their body. Like he says, they point out their baldness. There's people that do that, right? I mean, look at all these horrible people on Fox News and things. ثم إذا أحس بأدنى غلبة من جهته عرض به إن كان متماسكا ويستحسن ذلك منه ويعد من لطائف التشبيب ولا يمتنع عن الإفصاح به وإن كان متبجحا بالسفاهة والاستهزاء كما حكي عن قوم من أكابر المناظرين المعدولين منه. And then ومنها الفرح بمساءة الناس والغم بمسارهم. They get happy when bad things happen to people and they're depressed when good things happen to them. SubhanAllah. That's a real sickness. People should love for their brothers what they love for themselves. So to not be happy about good things happening to them, فَهُوَ بَعِيدٌ مِّنْ أَخْلَاقِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. It's very far from the character of the believers. وكل من طلب المباهات بإظهار الفضل يسره لا محالة وما يسوء أقرانه وأشكاره الذين يسامونه في الفضل ويكون التباغض بينهم كما بين الضرائر. They hate one another like the multiple wives hate each other. كما أن إحدى الضرائر إذا رأت صاحبتها من بعيد When one of the co-wives sees another co-wife from a distance, ارتعدت فرائصها, her shanks start to shake, واصفر لونها, and her color in her face changes. فهكذا ترى المناظر. And this is the same with these men when they see one of their enemies. يربد لونه ويضطرب عليه فكره. He gets كأنه شاهد شيطانا ماردا أو سبعا ضاريا. It's as if he saw a shaitan or a dangerous animal, a lion or something, ferocious lion. فأين الاستئناس والارتواح الذي كان يجري بين علماء الدين? Where's the intimacy that scholars have when they meet? Where's the brotherhood? Where's the being happy for the other and being sad for their difficulties? Imam al-Shafi'i said, العلم بين أهل العقل والفضل رحم متصل. Knowledge between virtuous people and people of intellect is like a womb that binds them. They're like brothers and sisters from the same womb. Just like you differ with your brother, but he's still your brother, right? You shouldn't have become a gas station attendant. You should have been a doctor. He's still your brother, even if he didn't do what you thought was best for him. وَمِنْهَا النِّفَاقِ. And we don't need to bring any ayahs and hadith about this problem. That's what he says. He says, these are the people that sweet talk you with their tongues, they show you their love, and then they get behind your back and it's a whole other thing. إذا تعلم الناس العلم وتركوا العمل وتحابوا بالألسن وتباغضوا بالقلوب وتقاطعوا في الأرحام لعنهم الله عند ذلك فأصمهم وأعمى أبصارهم. It's a Hasan, he says, Imam al-Hasan mentions this. Imam al-Tabarani relates it, and Ibn Asakir, and it has, it's in the Musnad. He says that if people learn knowledge and they stop acting according to it, and they love one another with their tongues and they hate each other with their hearts, and they sever their kinship bonds, God will curse them when that happens. He will blind them and make their words have no effect. And he said, وَقَدْ صَحَّ ذَلِكَ بِمُشَاهَدَةِ الْحَالِ. He said, whether the hadith is sahih or not, we witness its truth by the conditions that we find ourselves in. ومنها الاستكبار عن الحق وكراهته والحرص على الممارات فيه. And from it also this arrogance and hatred and loving this argumentation. Our Prophet ﷺ said, من ترك المراء وهو مبطل بنى الله له بيتا في ربض الجنة. Whoever leaves off argumentation and he's wrong in it, Allah will build him a house in the middle of paradise. وَمَنْ تَرَكَ الْمِرَاءَ وَهُوَ مُحِقٌ بَنَى اللَّهُ لَهُ بَيْتًا فِي أَعْلَى الْجَنَّةِ. And if he leaves it and he's right, Allah will build him a place in the highest point in paradise. And also رِيَاء وَمُلَاحَظَةَ الْخَلْقِ وَالْجُهْدِ فِي اسْتِمَالَةِ قُلُوبِهِمْ وَصَرْفِ وُجُوهِهِمْ. Also ostentation, eye service, noticing creation, being concerned about what they think, and also trying to get people to incline towards you. He said this is a deep disease. So these 10 things that he's just mentioned, he said, these are ummahat al-fawahish. These are the matrices of foulness, the internal foulness. This is where it all comes from. And he said, now listen to this. I mean, really, listen to this. سيموا واتفقوا لغير المتماسكين منهم من الخصام المؤدي إلى الضرب واللكم وتمزيق الثياب والأخذ باللحى والسب الوالدين والشتم الأستاذين والقذف الصريح فإن أولئك ليسوا معدودين من زمرة الناس المعتبرين وإنما الأكابر العقلاء منهم هم الذين لا ينفكون عن هذه الخصال. These 10 things that he just mentioned, he said, these are for the cool, calm, and collected ones. As for the ones that start hitting each other and throwing things at each other and ripping the clothes and grabbing their beards and cursing their parents and cursing their teachers and slandering them with calumny, with open calumny. We don't consider these people. We don't give them any consideration. I'm talking about the uqala here that have these 10 qualities. These are the uqala from them, not the ones that are chopping off heads. نعم قد يسلم بعضهم عن بعضها مع من هو ظاهر الانحطاط عنه أو ظاهر الارتفاع عليه وهو بعيد عن بلده وأسباب معيشته ولا ينفك أحد منهم عنه مع أشكاله المقارنين له في الدرجة. And then he says, yeah, it's true, some of them don't have all of these qualities. ثم يتشعب من كل واحدة من هذه الخصال العشرة 10 أخرى. And then there's 10 that come out of these also. And he talks about those. And then he says that, and if you say, you know, it's permissible to do this and there's benefit in it and it helps people studying knowledge, and if it wasn't for love of leadership, knowledge would have disappeared. He said, what you're saying is true, but it's not beneficial. It's the same as saying, if we didn't promise children ball games with their sticks and toys and things, they wouldn't go to school. Right? He says, لولا الوعد بالكرة والصولجان واللعب بالعصافير ما رغب الصبيان في المكتب. If you didn't tell them, oh, you're going to get to go playground and have recess and you'll play games, if you didn't tell them that, they wouldn't go to school. So he's saying, that's not saying those are the good things that they should be doing. And then he said, and don't forget, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُؤَيِّدُ هَذَا الدِّينِ بِأَقْوَامٍ لَا خَلَقَ لَهُم. Allah will help this religion with people that have no character. There's no portion of the akhirah. They have no portion. وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم إن الله يؤيد هذا الدين بالرجل الفاجر. Allah will support this religion sometimes with a foul person. So seeking leadership is destructive. And then he says, in the end, the ulama are 3. مهلك نفسه وغيره, the one who destroys himself and others. وهم المصرحون بطلب الدنيا المقبلون عليها. These are the ones that are just after dunya, and you see them chasing after it. They destroy themselves and they destroy those who follow them. وإما مسعدون نفسه وغيره, and those who help themselves and help others. وهم الداعون إلى الله تعالى المتخلون عن الدنيا ظاهرا وباطنا, and these are the ones that call to Allah and they're free of dunya inwardly and outwardly. وإما مهلك نفسه مسعدون غيره, and those who destroy themselves but help others. وهو الذي يدعو إلى الآخرة وقد رفض الدنيا في ظاهره, and those are those who call to the akhirah and they reject the dunya outwardly. وقصده في الباطن قبول الخلق وإقامة الجاه, but his real niyyah is that people accept him and he gains stature from it. فانظر من أي الأقسام أنت, so look to yourself, which are you from? ومن الذي اشتغلت بالاعتداد له, and what have you been preoccupied in preparation for? ولا تظنن أن الله تعالى يقبل غير الخالص لوجهه, and don't think in any way, shape or form that Allah accepts anything other than the one who is sincere solely for his face alone. تعالى من العلم والعمل وسيأتيك في كتاب الرياء بل في جميع ربع المهلكات ما ينفي عنك الريبة فيه الريبة فيه إن شاء الله تعالى. And you will see in the chapter on ostentation or eye service, in the quadrant of the quarter of muhlikat, the destructive things, what will negate these things. So that's the 4th book. We have the 5th book now, so we have 3 more books, and we'll do tomorrow, inshallah, Al-Bab al-Khamis, 10 branches for a student. This is about learning. So any questions? Go ahead, yeah. With regard to argumentation? With regards to argumentation, does the Imam speak about only scholars, or can it be used as a... He's talking about, for common people, yeah, it's haram. He's talking about ulama. Like common people should never argue about the religion because they don't have the requisite knowledge to do it. What about using it as a tool for critical thinking? So set aside
the religion itself?
It's a really good question. The next chapter deals with that, about when it's appropriate to challenge or to ask a scholar question and things like that. So it's a good question, and tomorrow, inshallah, he'll deal with it in that chapter, but it's an excellent question. So we read last night, one shouldn't delve too far into any science. Doesn't attaining mastery of a science entail having to study a subject as far as possible? People, he's really talking about, he's a man who mastered all the sciences of his age. He had a real mastery. And he has a beautiful Arabic style. It's quite stunning, given that he was a Persian and learned Arabic as a second language. His mastery of Arabic is really phenomenal. And he uses words beautifully. His syntax is beautiful. It's actually not that difficult to learn this Arabic. It's not a difficult Arabic, but it's very eloquent. It's difficult to reproduce, to write like that. It's called the sahl al-mumtana' in balagha, the easy impossible. He mastered all the sciences. At the end of his life, he's saying, look, I'm giving you good advice. Don't waste your time like I did, because you don't know when you're going, and the most important thing is this. But he was definitely a scholar. He spent his life teaching and studying. Scholarship was very important to him. And so he's not in any way saying don't study. He's just saying don't be one of these people that learns all of these things that they're just not useful for you. You learn useful things, learn useful knowledge. The Prophet sought refuge from knowledge that didn't benefit. Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'an. I ask you for beneficial knowledge. And that's his point. And so we need grammarians. We need people to master the Arabic language. It's a jihad to master the Arabic language. You're protecting the religion. You're protecting knowledge of the Quran and the Hadith, which we need in every generation. It's a fard kifaya. We need qira'at. We need people to master the qira'at. It's hard to do. It'll take you many years to master all 10 variants, but somebody has to do it. So there are people that have to delve deeply into those sciences, undeniably. That's important. And people, Allah preserves the deen and the Quran. So Allah tawalla amrahu. Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidhun. We sent this dhikr down and we will protect it. And he protects it by producing in every generation people that take it upon themselves to learn the religion to the best of their ability. يحمل هذا علم عن من كل قرن عدوله. That this knowledge will be carried in each generation. Upright people ينفون عنه تحريف الغالين وانتحال المبطلين وتأويل الجاهلين. They'll negate the interpretations of the extremists, the decontextualization of people attacking it. Intihal al-mubtilin means like people that take things out of context in order to undermine your religion. They'll defend it against that. And the interpretations of ignorant people. So, any other questions? Mm-hmm.
Bismillah. What is your advice for mothers? I just feel like it's too late for me. I'm not really gonna be a scholar, but it would be an honor to raise a child who is worthy of this deen. And it's just hard and not to feel lost and not to know what to do and how to raise a decent human being.
Yeah.
And curious as to what is your advice?
Yeah, we're up against big challenges, my sister. You know, really, I have my children, we're up against big challenges. It's not easy. It's hard to be human today. It's really difficult to be a human being. And our fitrah is under real attack. You know, a lot of this technology, we're not designed for it. You know, Allah did not design us. And we were warned about these latter times, when there'd be a lot of fitna, a lot of confusion. We were warned about them. So these are our times. It's a good time to be alive because it's our time. And it's the time God gave us. You know, we have to do the best that we can. And trust in God. I mean, tawakkal ala Allah. You know, when you tawakkal ala Allah fahuwa hasbuhu. If you really trust in God, He's enough for you. These ayahs are real. They're metaphysical truths, just like physical laws. You know, every you know, every body at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by a body in motion. That's a physical law. You know, the cup's at rest, I move it over here. That's physics. There's metaphysical laws as well. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. If you have true taqwa of Allah, He will give you an exit strategy. وَيَرْزُقُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. If you're worried about your children, Allah says, have taqwa, and He will take care of your children. You know, my own teacher, my teacher, he had 3 sons and a daughter. His daughter died in childbirth, and she only had one child, and he's just an amazing scholar. And he was raised without his mother and without his father. He was raised at his grandfather's, and just amazing man. But, you know, one of his sons went and joined the army and went to Iraq and studied and came back, and just very different from the path of his father. But all his father did was do dua for him, and he was actually put in prison, and then they had a trial and they were all sentenced. And this is a true story, I'm not making this up. They had a trial, and every time, you know, they would put all the names down, and then the man who typed the names out would bring them, and the name of Marabt al-Hajj's son was missing, wasn't on. He said, go write it again. And he'd do it again. He came back, it wasn't there. After 3 times, he just said, leave the wali's son alone. And now he's very pious, very righteous man. All his sons became scholars, you know, and he didn't do anything other than dua. Rabbahum bid-du'a. And that was the tarbiyah of the Prophet ﷺ. Rabbahum bid-du'a wa nadara. You know, that's the way the Prophet. So we have to trust in God. Ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah. You know, really take help from prayer and you know, Shaykh Abdullah bin Bayy, he said, people, when they see their children growing astray, they fall apart. And he said they should go to God, because their hearts are in God's hands. You can't go and tell them, because you raised them, and they're not following what you obviously didn't raise them to go astray. But if they've gone astray, you have to go to God, because He's the one that can rectify them. And He will. He'll rectify our children, you know. And then there's some, like Nuh alayhi salam, khalas. You know, his son didn't get on the boat. So, but you know, you don't, this is, a lot of this is scholastic learning, my sister, and trust me, you can be a scholar of, what he's talking about is ulama billah. And you don't have to know very much. But if you know God, you know everything, really. So there were plenty of Sahaba that were true scholars of God, but they didn't have a lot of outward knowledge. And if you love the scholars, then inshallah Allah will make one of your children a scholar. Like He made this man's, his father was a poor wool carder, but he loved the ulama. He died when his son was less than 7 years old, and look what Allah gave him. I mean, what's his reward going to be on Yawm al-Qiyamah? You know, when he sees his son. You know, one of the men that burnt his book in Fez, he actually saw the Prophet in a dream. And the Prophet brought Imam Al-Ghazali, and he gave him a whip. And he told him to whip him. The next day he made public tawbah. It was amazing. So, and that's one of the miracles of our religion, is the Prophet ﷺ is actively engaged in our community. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ فِيكُمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. He comes to people in their dreams. You know, he gives them succour. I mean, I had a woman, this is a true story I'm going to tell you. I don't usually talk about these things, but I had a woman who came to me and she said, were in Medina, and she just said, I have a really hard time with Aisha's age. And I told her, I said, listen, first of all, there's debate about her age, all right? And I said, but the important thing about Aisha, if Aisha was an insignificant person in the history of Islam, then we would certainly have to question what the wisdom was. But the fact that she carried so much of the religion, it's undeniable that Allah chose her to be in that position, whether she was 12 or 16 or 18. There are different narrations, or whether she was 9. That wasn't a problem for Irving Washington, who wrote a biography of the Prophet, which is not very flattering, by the way. But when he got to that section, he just said Arabian women were known to be very precocious. They matured early, so this was not uncommon. It didn't bother him in 19th century America, early 19th century America. But today it's very bothersome. But anyway, so I gave her, the best I could do. So I think about a week later, we were in Medina, because we were in Mecca when she brought up the question to me. She came to me and she had like tears. And I said, well, what's the matter? She said, no, I just wanted to let you know, I feel so at ease. She said, I've been so troubled about this. And she said, the Prophet ﷺ came to me in a dream last night, and he explained to me why he did that. And he said Abu Bakr was honored by becoming his father-in-law, because Abu Bakr's maqam was so high with Allah. And she had that in a dream, but she was totally, her heart was just set at ease. I just thought, subhanAllah, what a gift to be troubled by something, and the Prophet comes to you himself to ease your heart. And that's from ikhlas, which means that it doesn't mean that you can't question things. Our religion has never shied away from questions. But question them with a desire to know the truth, not a desire to challenge the truth. Yeah. Awalam tu'min, don't you believe? That's what Allah asked Ibrahim. Don't you believe? He said, no, I believe. I just still my heart. So he showed him. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu